Hello, sir. How's it going?
Excellent.
Did you have breakfast?
Not yet, no.
Ah, how come?
I don't usually eat breakfast.
Never?
Not never, but like I don't typically, if I eat breakfast, it's late morning.
Hmm.
I'm a coffee and anxiety fueled guy in the morning. That's how I start the day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. On caffeine and that's it.
I'm very disappointed with my breakfast this morning. I did have breakfast. I have cereal once a week, usually. I look forward to my bowl of cereal once a week. But today was a bit too much or not enough. It wasn't good. I wasted my bowl that I was looking forward to. Too much Rice Krispies, not enough of other stuff, too much cinnamon, not enough coconut chips.
And it went everywhere.
How do you know?
You think I wasn't paying attention, but I saw all of it fall out of your bowl and you scooping it back into your bowl and then looking at me to see if I had noticed that you had spilled most of your breakfast on the counter.
Not all of it, just a little bit that didn't fit. Well, once I added milk, because I had it heaping over the bowl and then I added milk. And so,
Your
like,
portion control gets worse and worse.
well, because I mix like five different cereals together. I moved the milk cartons in front of me, but apparently not fast enough.
Well, I also can hear 1,000 Rice Krispies hitting the counter,
It wasn't Rice Krispies because they go in first, so they're at the bottom. There's no Rice
but they're
Krispies
the
falling
reason it
out.
swells.
Well, yeah.
As soon as you hit them with the milk, they just do this weird wave thing and push everything out over the edge.
Yeah. My fiber one. I didn't have enough room for my fiber one.
You are describing the blandest cereal in the world.
I had multi-grain Cheerios in there too.
Oh, slow down. Slow down.
I didn't quite have enough room, so I had to eat a little bit and then pour more back in. So it was like 2.5 bowls of cereal because I
Why
keep
don't you just
pulling
start
in.
with a bigger bowl?
Well, we only have one size bigger, or the huge popcorn size. But I'll
That's
get,
where I'm leading you to because
I'll get sick. I get sick even just with this. I don't know why.
you have 17 different cereals in a small bowl that you're trying to win a record
It's not
for.
a small bowl. It's a big bowl.
It is a big
It's
bowl.
our biggest bowl that's not a big popcorn bowl that we've got. It's as big, like if I put it in one of our cooking bowls, it would be just as big because I've done it before. I'm like, this bowl's too small, so I'm going to dump it into my big mixing bowl. It's the exact same. So it's at least like 5 or 6 servings of cereal. But I love it. I love it. And then coconut chips. Oh, I just love it.
But not so much today.
Not so much today. Yeah. And I bought this like fancy granola from a farmer's market thing. Super expensive. Not good. Not good.
Yeah, farmers markets are a scam.
Yeah.
They used to be great when it was actual farmers, but
Yeah.
it's all these,
Fancy
well,
schmancy.
no, it's all these Etsy people living in real life thinking that they're offering something different when really all they're doing is repackaging overpriced bland stuff.
My homemade granola is so good. I could probably go to a farmer's market if I had any time.
I can't imagine you standing at a farmer's market for 8 hours selling granola.
I'd be so bored.
You'd be sick because you'd eat the granola.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, 100%.
That could happen too.
And then you would tire out of talking to people after like 4 customers and then try and make me or one of the children deal with it instead.
I just wouldn't, well, I wouldn't sell because I wouldn't talk to anybody. And then I'd be walking around seeing what else everybody else was having and then having samples of everybody else.
Do you know what your store could be called though?
What?
The mute hippie.
Oh, that's a good one,
I know.
actually.
That's a good one. There you go. I've just given you $1 million idea. And people come up and try to talk to you and you're like, just sweetly be like, here, and just hand them stuff. Make them point to the menu.
That's all. I'm not deaf, just mute.
Just mute. But yeah, you can hear them. You're just not responding to them.
It's so good. I could use that for so many things.
Yep. You're welcome.
Like even ordering our pizzas last night, I had to phone and it was so stressful.
You can make a t-shirt of that and just wear it around. And it says, I identify as a mute hippie. And then as soon as people talk to you in public, you just tap it. You're like, nope.
Oh my goodness. I have to go to I'm presenting in Northern Alberta this week, and they're hosting a dinner for everybody. So
How are you going to skip out on that?
I should probably
Yeah,
go.
but you say that every time, and yet you never do.
Did I go to the one
I can answer nope. I don't even know what
dinner?
to know.
Now that I
Nope.
think, because they're gonna have a dinner. Yeah, no, I don't think I did.
No.
I did a lunch one when I went to DC.
Hmm.
They had a small select group who wanted to chat with me.
Hmm. I
So I
remember
did
hearing about
that.
that.
I
You
did
were
that.
not a fan.
No, I did it. It was fine. It was good. Leading up to it, but it was fine. It was funny because they're talking about New Yorkers and Maryland and well, whatever states. There's a bunch of states, and they're all like trash talking each other's driving
Yeah, because everybody's bad at driving.
and just like the craziness and then we talked about the East West Coast differences.
Like Tupac and Biggie.
No, like our East Coast Maritimers are not at all like East Coast Americans who are more high strung and go, go, go and busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, no.
They're more like their West Coast people, laid back.
And our West Coast people are more like their West Coast people.
Well,
It's really
yeah,
just the Eastern United States that doesn't conform to coastal living.
yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, coastal living. Because I would say Eastern Canada. Well, but we are too in Vancouver. It's just the big cities that are go, 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 stress,
Yeah.
stress, stress. It's kind of across everywhere. Anyway, yeah. So I've got a question.
It's on the docket today.
I've got so many actually, but the one that I decided on today to ask is just how parents can feel more confident in their parenting decisions.
Well, it's an interesting one. I would start by not evaluating your situation or decision online.
Yes,
Or, I mean, so it's interesting because I think a lot of parenting is just go with your gut and hope for the best in a lot of ways.
which
Like
is
you,
usually wrong. Yeah.
it's usually wrong. And then people, like, anytime you open up your decision or situation to a group of people for an opinion, you are inviting their bad information and bad opinions to change your perspective. Realistically, if you want to be confident in your decisions, you got to do two things. You just got to make a decision and just live with the fact that it may be right or wrong, but you're comfortable based on the information you have that you're going to make it. But before that, I think you need to go back to before you ever hit the point where you have to make a decision, you have to have a really solid understanding of what your kind of moral stance, let's call it, is in general. If you're really loose with kind of your approach to the world, you're never going to feel confident what you're describing. So you got to really figure out. We've talked about it in previous episodes. What your red lines are, right? Like what are you comfortable bending, and what are you comfortable not bending at all? And then ultimately, when you make that decision, you just got to let Jesus take the wheel. Like, seriously, like there's so many things, like you can get so paralyzed by the situation and the potential outcomes that you'll make it worse.
Yeah.
So you just gotta, yeah, if you have a fairly solid understanding of what it is you think you're okay with, and you got to do that soul searching early. Like you got to figure it out. And you got to figure it out with your partner too, because that's, I think, where a lot of that breakdown also can occur inadvertently is if you make a decision and your partner isn't aligned to your kind of view of things, it's immediately going to create friction and just break down your ability to be confident that you made the right decision,
Yeah.
right? And potentially, taking it to an extreme, it's going to build resentment. It's going to build kind of a conflict that you don't necessarily need outside of that. That's going to build over time.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things in there that are good to point out. One, just because I know one I'm going to come back to, which was a point I was going to say, but one that you were talking about was the outcomes. We have zero control over the outcomes. We can try to influence, we can try to inform, we have some control over that process, but we, at the end of the day, have zero. So just right now,
Yeah.
we're looking at like it's the NHL playdowns. What did you think I was going to say?
I don't know, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
playoffs.
Playoffs, whatever. So it's the playoffs. No team has, unless it's fixed, no team has direct control over whether or not they win. They can do everything they can to train, to practice, to, try to
Yeah.
inform their best sort of performance, but they don't have control over the outcome at the end of the day. So I think that that's really important. But the one thing that I think you really touch on. I think this was actually our very first parenting podcast episode was on our
Hmm.
values, like our what's important to us, our values and goals. And we've talked about it even more recently too. So if you know what is the most important values for you as a family and what your goals are as a parent, what kind of kids, not that we're, again, not that we can guarantee that outcome, but do you want them to be resilient, independent? Do you want them to be empathetic? Do you want them to be good humans? And if so, what does that mean?
Hmm.
Right. So, or do you want them like A+ students? It's all academics going to med school. I mean, that's up to you, whatever your values are. But I think when you can break that down to what matters the most, you can create your decisions with more consistency and it'll help you inform your decisions. Is this helping me? If I say yes, is that helping me guide my kiddo
Hmm.
where I want them to go based on, and, it's informing our values or not, right? So
Yeah.
keeping us in that direction. So I think having a parenting mission statement can really be helpful to anchor those decisions. And then you'll always know, like, why did I make this decision? That could be actually helpful too, looking back on some of those, things that you have wondered about. Oh, should I give them a cell phone? Ah, should I let them do this? Should I, right? You can go back to what was my reasoning,
Hmm.
and hopefully it'll come back to those values. I think that that's really important.
And one thing, just sorry to interrupt. One thing I think though that you can build in as well, like when you're using the cell phone as an example, you can build in a review component to that decision. Like, okay, using the cell phone example, we're going to give you a cell phone, but in 3 months, we're going to sit down and we're going to review what we think. Are you using it too much? Are you not? And that might change the decision or the path forward, right? There are certain opportunities where it's not a one decision and you can never revisit it. It can be a one decision and then you see how it's going and then you come back, but build that into the conversation, right? Especially when you're talking about decisions that require, a large degree of maturity and trust from the kid. Like the cell phone's the perfect example, right? If you give them to it, a lot of parents give it to them and then kind of have this, what do you do now that they've got it? Well, you lay the groundwork. If you're not 100% convinced that they should have it, or they need to demonstrate to you that they treat it properly and aren't spending all their time on social media or whatever it is that your red line is, tell them that. Say,
Mm.
yeah, we're going to give this a try. We're going to try it for the next 2 or 3 months. We're going to see. And if I don't like any of these things, it'd be really clear, right? Like if I
Yeah.
don't like how much time you're on social, if I don't like, that you're trying to take it into your bedroom or you do these things, it's gone. Or we're going to change it. That just sets up an expectation. It doesn't make the conversation easier because the kid will naturally fight back and using the cell phone as an example, but it sets it up that it's not a surprise or it doesn't potentially feel like punishment,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the other thing, and this is a total tangent, but that's the other thing that a lot of parents use, like they give the cell phone because they feel they need it, and then they use it as a weapon. Like, well, I'm just going to take your cell phone back. Well, what good is that? Like, what are you going to do? Because all you've done is create resentment now. They don't understand why they're doing it. And if they do get it back, they're going to hide things from you even worse, right?
Yeah.
So be really clear in what it is you're doing.
And so for that reason, I wouldn't leave it for 2 to 3 months. I
Whatever
would
it is.
almost do week by week and,
Sure.
and have that very concrete plan and say what is too much time, right? Like these are the very clear, explicit expectations. And you're right, it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
Here's the phone and you have full access. I mean, we've kind of done that with Willow a little bit,
Mhm.
right? So she does have access to a cell phone. It's not her own. It's actually my work phone, and which is monitored. And she knows that there are restrictions. She can use it for texting, for calling, and for pictures. There is no access to anything else.
Yeah.
And I mean, for us, and yeah, we do have like a family, no screens in the bedroom, right? Like all of these different things that we did set up from the
Mhm.
beginning and collaboratively somewhat as well. Some things are just red lines. Like mine is just no screens in the bedroom,
Yeah.
period. There is no negotiation over that, but maybe there's other negotiations we can have. And and yeah, you can do it week by week. For her, we said we're gonna, monitor this really until 16, but we've had to address things
Yeah.
as we go. But she knows it's not until she's 16 that we might open the discussion of having her own cell phone, but we're
Yeah.
not even entertaining that discussion until 16. So it
Yeah.
is kind of like her training wheels,
Yeah.
right? And so it doesn't matter what it is. We're just using cell phone as an example. But coming back to why, did we give this decision? Well, we know she's going to have a cell phone on her own at
Totally.
someday if she moves out, right? So how can we teach her sort of best practices around that? And so just yeah, looking at and the plan was based on our values. Dinner time is family time, not screen time,
Yeah.
right? People in connection over screen time. So coming back to some of those value pieces as well.
Yeah. And then just kind of keeping an eye on it, right? Like I think the kids are going to kids are naturally going to try, whether it's deliberate or not, they are going to max out what they're allowed to get away with, right? And some is intentional and some is just they don't think about it and they're just using it and using it, using it, doing whatever they're doing. So you just got to kind of keep an eye on that. But it's a balance too, because if you start going too hard after giving it to them, you're just going to create conflict where there doesn't need to be. So I think the real key component that we've kind of touched on is before you move forward with it, you have to have a conversation with them about what that looks like
Yeah.
and what the expectations are and make sure they understand it.
And what the punishment is if they don't meet those expectations. I mean, the positive, like the consequence if they do follow those expectations, is they can continue
Yeah.
using the cell phone or continue that privilege. But the punishment, if they don't meet that expectations, need to be very clear. And it's not your frustration. It's
Yeah.
not
It's just
their
like, hey, we talked
behavior
about this.
somewhere
Yeah.
else. It's the plan that you've created. And that's why I like going week by week. We're going to check in on Friday or every Friday or every Sunday. We're going to check in and see at this. That's when you tweak the plan,
Yeah.
not in the heat of frustration
Yeah.
or the heat of a different behavior that you're now trying to, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not fair to them.
Yeah, you always need to make sure that you're approaching the conversation pretty cool,
Yeah.
right? And if there is something that upsets you, give yourself a cooling off period before, like, unless there's an immediate danger of injury or death, everything can wait,
Yeah.
right? Everything can be discussed when everybody's chill and calm and ready to look at it less confrontationally.
And if you've got the plan, like we know for every Friday, wow, you can, if it's Tuesday, they've just done something horrific. Wow, interesting choice. We're going to talk about this Friday
Yeah.
when we tweak the plan,
And the
right?
benefit of doing it that way too is it builds up anxiety in them and they're less planted and ready to fight back because they'll be scared.
So there's a couple of things. I mean, I've got so many points here, but I just want to touch on the things that we've already talked about. I mean, the learning, but not the scrolling,
Yeah.
right? So not going into overload. And I think I mean, this could be a whole other topic is what are those things if we were going to tell parents to go sort of look and seek out what
Yeah.
to learn. But right now, maybe we'll make a part two for that. But just not having too much information because there's so much on social media. Everybody's got their own opinion. Whatever algorithm you're linked into, you're going to get more of that information. So, it's gaining knowledge and understanding. But it really, if you create those values and goals, that's going to help inform. And then just to your point about reflecting, right? And looking what is working, keep doing more of that.
Yeah.
What isn't working, that's what you can start fixing. And like, why isn't it working? So if you can look at your decisions and your actions and link it to, what's going on and being really purposeful in that, that can be really helpful. So maybe it's starting a reflection journal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just being able to what felt good in your parenting decisions, what felt hard, what felt gross. How come do you think, right? What have you learned from that? And how can you tweak it? I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of a piece there.
And just on the information and the kind of the algorithm piece, it's important for parents to understand that your view of the world when you're looking at it through the lens of your phone or your computer is dramatically skewed.
Yeah.
Right? You are looking at a representation of the world that is designed for you, good or bad,
Yeah.
right? By people that may or may not have the same values and are trying to accomplish something. So you have to be really, really careful. And I mean, that goes for us. Like this conversation that we're having might not align to what you're looking for. Take that into account. This is our opinion, right? This is our opinion shaped on our views. We're not doing anything malicious because we're not really benefiting from this, but you have to think like if you're going to Facebook groups to try and shape what you're going to do next, that's a flag. Like
Yeah.
that's just a flag,
Yeah.
right? So just keep that in the back of your mind. A lot of this introspection and this kind of I guess thought that you're going to put into it needs to be a relatively solitary exercise. And then you can validate once you've kind of established what you're thinking, but try not to go out and solicit your position from outside influences because those outside influences might not necessarily have your best interest at heart.
No. And there's just a lot of faulty information. Like a lot of the feel-good parenting strategies actually aren't very helpful.
No.
It's actually crippling our kids. It feels so good,
Hmm.
right? And it feels so warm and fuzzy but a perfect one is just never letting your child cry.
Yeah.
They're never learning how to regulate their emotions. This is part of the reason why our kids are so anxious all of the time, right? So we really need to be careful. And a lot of things that were meant for one population, so for example, like babies, never letting babies cry while they're sleeping. A
Hmm.
lot of that came out of orphanages where they had hundreds of babies. They only had a few adults for 100 babies. And so it was just to make sure that they were taking care of those babies optimally. It
Yeah.
wasn't meant for two on one, two parents on one baby sort of situation. So I don't know. We just got to be careful with that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Just because it feels good doesn't necessarily mean it's good either.
And
So.
there are a lot of people selling opinions as fact, right? And you
Absolutely.
got to be really like, you hit the nail on the head. Just because it makes you feel good doesn't necessarily mean that it's what you should be doing. There's a lot of, you know, I don't even know how to frame it. There's a lot of wine talk parenting
Yeah.
that is not good,
Yeah.
right? It's because what it does a lot of times as well, and this is again, we're kind of getting off topic, but what it really does is if what you're absorbing or what you're inputting is doing nothing but reaffirming your view of things and making you feel justified in what it is you want to do, that's a flag. You really got to step back and evaluate that because that means that there is something being sold to you. And I don't mean sold by money, but there's an idea or something being pushed for someone else's benefit. You just got to really take that into account, right? Like parenting isn't impossible, but it's not easy, right? And you have to approach parenting from a very deliberate and I would say to a certain degree egoless approach. When I say egoless, I mean you're not the important person in this. You are the failure part and you are to blame for everything,
And
right?
yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's the reality. Like that's what you signed up for. So if your approach is more around how do I make this kid conform to me and this and all of these things and why aren't they listening and they need to do these things, that's and then you seek out sounding boards that reinforce that view, you're not approaching it the right way. You're really not because you need to understand who you are and what it is you want to try and teach your kids. And then you need to approach each situation as an opportunity to let them discover that teaching that you're trying to give them. But you can't force them to it. And you can't then get this mob mentality, not the right term, that rationalizes why your approach is right and that kid just needs to change. It'll never happen. You're just going to drive that kid away.
Yeah.
Right. Simple as that.
And we see that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Unfortunately. I mean, I see it in my work, but we see it in our personal lives
100%.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And too, I do want to say like the harsh stuff, obviously, that doesn't feel good is also probably not great either,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
It's a
like hitting
balance
our
for sure.
kids. And,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Wow, but I mean, are they being lippy? Maybe you got to think about that as an outcome. No, kidding. I'm totally kidding. But it is, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be about extremes, I guess is the way to say it, right? If the extreme is that the kid is going to suffer mental or physical harm, or the extreme is that they're going to have no interaction with you and no support and no guidance, you're on the wrong end of the spectrum. You got to be clear on where you're heading and try and bring them with you, right?
yeah, that's where the authoritarian parenting comes in, right?
Hundred
We're not permissive, but we're also not dictators.
Well, and we see a lot of that, right? Especially in sports, you see a lot of these parents that are driving their kids. And it's interesting that we're at an age with some of our daughters and their teammates and stuff where these parents that were hardcore early on and were talking about how their kid just loved this, they just love it. Yeah, they don't, right? They mirror what their parents are putting in front of them. So they talk about all the same things, but our kids come back and talk about how messed up some of these girls are and how stressed they are. And, you got to take that into account. Yes, you want to teach them to achieve. Yes, you want to teach them these certain things, but you can't force them over. You can demonstrate it and they might pick up on it or they might not, right? Because that's the other thing is how many parents are approaching parenting as trying to be the opposite of what they were parented,
Totally.
right? And that in itself is, yeah, if you've got a really negative upbringing, there's absolutely some stuff you don't want to do, but take a really objective look at how you were raised and see what was trying to be accomplished and then how it aligns to what you actually want to do,
Yeah.
right?
That's a good point. Actually, one of our daughters, probably one of their closest friends, I would say, is just crippled with kind of has a sense of where they want to go in life, but just feeling they're never meeting expectations and letting everybody down and just riddled with, yeah, self-doubt and anxiety and nothing is good enough. And, when you look at the stats of the program that this kid is in university, it's not great. Most first years go on academic probation their
Yeah.
first year. And this kid did fantastic, like Dean's List fantastic, but it wasn't a 4.0. And so it's not good enough and just letting everybody down, right? And so that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
that's and
problem.
that's across the board, right? And a lot of times these kids mask that, but when like if an adult talks to them, they know what they need to say to seem like they're in control and they're on the same page as their parents. But our kids understand beneath it, no, they're a wreck, right?
Yeah.
Well, their parents don't know that they drink all the time or they party or they this or they that. And inevitably there's a brick wall coming. And then when it hits, the parent is just amazed at their child. Like they've been so great. No, that kid has been struggling for years. And rather than figuring out where you are in relation to where you want them to be and what they need, you're just continuing to drive that bus towards the wall.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. And then at the end of the day, that is your fault
Yeah.
as the parent, right? You've got to really read the situation as well. And again, I'm not saying that you have to just never have an opinion or a position that pushes your kid, right? Like you absolutely need to push your kid, but in a way that they feel like it's not life or death should they not achieve it the way you've kind of perceived it, right? You've really got to make sure that they see you as an example and a support mechanism and not a bat that is hitting them over the head that they have to be perfect at this or they have to do this because they might not have it in their skill set or in their desire to do it, but they don't see that there's another path, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think on this, though, too, when I talk about confidence, it's not about doing everything right.
Yeah.
It's your confidence as a parent based on your values. But we mess up. I mess up all the time. I'm an expert in this stuff, and I mess up all the time. Even just yesterday, I made a mistake. I got frustrated, right? And I was going back to my daughter, like, sorry that I can be such a jerk sometimes, right? So or even just it was the best decision you've thought through, and sometimes it just doesn't go. We don't have control over the outcome.
Yeah.
So all I just want to say is there is no perfection, right? There's no right. It's just about we're always focusing on connection, maintaining that strong attached relationship with our kiddos. At the end of the day, I mean, that's got to be our number one goal,
Yeah.
right? It's always the connection before correction and all of those kinds of things. But then it's just about, owning up to our mistakes too. Like this was my decision based on these factors that I thought was correct. And hey, it didn't work out. So,
Yeah.
and maybe that's an apology to our kids. And now we're repairing,
Or maybe
right?
it's an opportunity to tell the kid that they failed
Yeah.
because they didn't listen to what you had to say and didn't follow your instruction. I'm
And,
kidding.
and
I'm kidding.
oh, I thought
I
you were
was
being,
being sarcastic. I could tell you were thinking I was making a point. I meant it in the example of the parents that
oh, I
right? They
see.
put it too much on their kid.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, no, no.
It's not
So,
necessarily a conversation that you can't have. Absolutely. If the kid didn't do all that they could, that's absolutely something you could talk about. I was making a joke of
okay. I missed maybe the whole thing, but it is just that the repair, right?
yeah.
And being able to come back and yeah, maybe I didn't take this into consideration or I didn't have all the fat or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
now we're modeling accountability
Yeah.
and how to repair, a situation and a relationship.
And I
So,
think that's an important piece too, because I don't know that enough parents these days are modeling accountability.
yeah.
In situations that we've seen where kids have done something truly not good, right? And it could be minor, it could be major, right? But they've done something wrong or they've done something with a consequence. 95% of the time, the response I hear from parents is absolute lack of accountability, and there's no way there's this is the real no, like take a real step here and look at the fact that your kid might have done something wrong and they have to learn to not do that again. So how do you approach it properly? You defending them to the end of the earth and saying that, well, it's this kid's fault or this, sure, that might be part of the situation, but what that does is it models to your kid that they are never at fault and they are never in need of trying to modify to have a better outcome, right? And that I think we see across the board. I see more parents that their kid is never at fault unless it's the thing that they told their kid to do that they didn't.
Right.
But from an outside in, no, like how dare you say that to me? That's not your place to talk to my kid to like, no, you know what? This is what It Takes a Village looks like in the modern age. There are people in situations that you're not a part of that your kid might have screwed up. Your kid might be the jerk. So how do you address that as opposed to just giving them a blank check to continue being that person, right?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Because I've met a lot of those kids that we met them when they were young, and some of them are older now, and they need a swift punch in the face to correct their behavior. Seriously, though, right?
Yeah.
But and obviously that's an extreme thing, but we've talked about this before. There is so little repercussions, and it's modeled by the parents not accepting that their kid didn't do the right thing. And then working with the kid, you can always have the conversation with the external party and like, hey, we've talked to them about this. This is the part we didn't like about it and where we think maybe you could look at, but that's never modeled. It's always a black and white, no, you can't do that, or no, I'm going to go and it's just, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Right. And that just shows too much adherence to a rigid worldview that doesn't allow for improvement at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Another one is celebrating small wins, right? And looking at, looking at the evidence. Maybe you have to watch your children while they're sleeping to think about the things
Sounds
that,
weird.
well, that just when, depending on their age and stage, sometimes they could just be, oh, like, well, think
Yeah.
of our puppy, right?
Mhm.
Like she just drives us. Well, I started singing a song, was it last night, where I'm like, I love you in this moment.
Yeah.
Because she was calm and relaxed and loving.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that at any other point during the day. So I had to wait for that moment, right, to kind of look at the evidence for that. But maybe it's a picture, right, that you can reflect back on and look at those wins and how were you successful in those moments, right?
Yeah.
How if you've raised a thoughtful child, I'm sure there's things that are frustrating you, but your child's thoughtful. How have you sort of helped instill that? How have you modeled that? How have you guided that?
Sure.
Because just looking at the things that we're already doing, I think can be helpful. And then that's just helping us be a little bit gentler with ourselves too, I think. But yeah, it's always coming back to that connection and relationship. There's just so many things because we do need to be kind with ourselves too if we're always beating ourselves up. I mean, there is a community component here, but we just got to be careful who that community is.
Well, yeah, it's the same as going online for that community.
Exactly.
You got to
Yeah.
really vet it, right?
Yeah. But I do think part of that community is just having help so you can recharge. Because if
Yeah.
your battery is empty and you are on edge all the time and frustrated, it's hard to make the decisions that are aligned with your values and aligned with the kind of parent you want to be.
Mhm.
But it always comes back to what kind of parent do I want to be? How do I want my children to remember me?
Mhm.
How do I want them to talk about me in their relationships with their friendships or with other parents, right? I know mine is probably like the stories that my daughters share are probably a gong show. They probably have love in their stories, but
But fascination that you've made it this far in life, I think, is the underlying theme.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be
I think
surprised with
you're the
that.
cautionary tale when they want to get out of doing something. Like, no, my mother does this, blah, blah, blah. And then that's, I think, where they come from.
Like what?
Adventure.
Yeah, I suppose. I'll make sure in the show notes that I highlight all of the key
Yeah.
pieces here. And if you haven't noticed in the show notes lately, I've been having homework ideas as well so that you can pick up different things. So definitely check those out just to help you, create your parenting mission statement and anything else that kind of jumped out at you. Any other last minute anythings?
Nope.
Okay.
Nail it.